Hello. I can't get this to tilt any further. When you come on, let me know. Maybe I should shut the light off up here. Hey, can you shut this light off above me? Let me see what it looks like. Hi, guys. Say hello if you're on. Shut that light off a minute. The one above me. Let me see. No. Well, yeah. Okay. That's better. Yeah, that's better. Oh my gosh, it's blinding me. How are you? Izzy's watching the most horrible horror movie ever. Yeah. How are you from Utah and Alabama? It's Halloween night. I don't know if a lot of people will be on. I just had dinner and I got home from work a little bit ago. So did you guys do anything for Halloween? Hi, Arkansas, North Carolina. Ooh, we got everyone from everywhere. Nina's jumping up and down. She wants a potato chip. Here you go. Happy Halloween, New Orleans. Oh, you must be having fun down there. We're up here in Indiana. I think you all know that. Izzy's watching The Exorcist. I can't even look over there. So what do you guys want to talk about? I know we're going to talk about worms. Any specific thing you want to know? We'll wait a few minutes before I tell you what number one. You love that movie? Oh my gosh, it terrifies me. I can't even look up. I'm like, oh, I can't see her. I gotta block her. Reagan. That's because I watched that movie when I was a kid, and I really wasn't supposed to, but mom and dad weren't around, so it's horrible though.
The best part. Look.
So I'm assuming you all are worm breeders or you raise worms for composting. Any of you sell them? I got a $3 coupon on my website that ends at midnight tonight. So if you want something, go on the gardenandwormlady.com. Yeah, I started out raising worms for composting purposes and to get the castings because I needed some kind of fertilizer that wasn't a chemical. And, I didn't want to use chemicals. You only just started? Oh, it's a lot of fun. Well, hi from Florida. Oh my gosh, you're in Australia? Wow. Wow. That's better, Izzy. So you have 180 worms. Believe it or not, they multiply fast, especially red wigglers and blue worms. They multiply fast. Once they lay cocoons, about 3 to 4 weeks after they're laid, they hatch. I lived in California for a year when I was in my 20s. And I went through one earthquake and I went back home to Jersey. I got scared. Hi, Michael. I started out with red wigglers because honestly, red wigglers are like one of the easiest worms to raise. They're like a good beginner worm. But if you can't get them, I would recommend the next worm to be a European nightcrawler. Um, they're also a good beginner worm, but not as easy as red wigglers because sometimes they have their moments when they can be a little moody. African nightcrawlers, you know, when you first get them, you have to like leave the light on for a few days because they will want to run. And but once like after 3 or 4 days, they settle down and then you can shut the light off. That's what I used to do. Hi AJ, I'm snacking on some lemon potato chips. I used to only get them in Texas and now they have them here. Yeah. Yeah, my African night crawlers, when I first got them, they were everywhere. I went down one day and they were huge and they were all over the floor and I didn't know what to do. And actually my first African night crawlers, I killed them. I don't know how. They died. But, doing more research and learning from other people, um, I just figured out what they liked and don't like, and then I've had success with them ever since. And that was a long time ago. In January, this will be 21 years for me. And when I first started, I didn't know like a lot of people that did it, especially women. Yeah, Louisiana swamp worms are good. I have them in my Worm Factory 360 with European night crawlers and red wigglers and the African night crawlers all together. So I know that one species is going to outregulate the others. I'm just waiting to see which one is going to do it. Another thing that I've noticed with African night crawlers and European night crawlers is when you put them in your factories or factories full size, and I've heard this happen to somebody else. For some reason, the big ones disappear and you get a lot of little ones. I don't know why. I think that the big ones die and they leave cocoons behind and they self-regulate. Kathy from Sourdough Kathy, she raises worms in Alaska. I don't know. She hasn't done a video lately because she did a video. She was sick. I heard her talking about the same thing with her European night crawlers. So maybe it's something about the tower being confined. I'm not sure. Izzy, can you text your dad and tell him I'm live on YouTube?
Yeah.
So what's the best to feed European night crawlers? If you're raising them for composting, you could feed them your kitchen scraps and shredded newspaper and cardboard. If you're going to feed them cardboard, make sure you soak it and wet it really nice and wring it out because they like that glue that's in between the boxes. They really like that. And if you're raising them to breed them, that's a whole different thing. I don't think the urine will kill them under a rabbit. I've known people that have raised worms outside and they've put worms underneath their rabbit hutches and the worms have done fine. So maybe because it's outside and the person I know wets it all down, maybe the urine just escapes. But if you were to put worms like in one of those pet rabbit things, I'm not sure. I like feeding my worms occasionally rabbit manure, but as you've seen me do, I soak the rabbit manure first and I drain that water out and then I feed it to the worms. But I've also put it dry in there, buried it in a corner, and the worms don't dig in right away. They wait a little bit, and it's probably because of that. Yeah, they can leave if they want to. Underneath a rabbit hutch, if they don't like it, they have the opportunity to leave. Now, a lot of you are new here and you haven't seen my outdoor composting worm barrel, which I have a worm barrel in the garden and it has holes underneath it and it sits on the ground. And for like 13 years now, I put food scraps in there and all kinds of bedding, leaves and grass, and the worms just come and go as they please. And I notice in the fall and winter, they start disappearing. And then in the spring and summer, they start hatching and they start coming back. So it's like a continuous cycle. And I use all the castings they leave behind in the barrel all over my garden. So it's pretty good. You give yours guinea pig poo and bedding. Oh, I'm sure they love it. I mean, think about the planet, guys, without worms. It would be a hot mess because they are like the cleanup crew for, predators eat animals out there, and then whatever is left, the worms take care of it. Oh, you got your first worms today. Awesome. What did you get? Did you get red wigglers or euros? Red wigglers. Right now, I'm not shipping African night crawlers. They'll probably come back in the spring. I just don't feel comfortable shipping them. It's starting to get a little cooler here, and I worry about them. I worry about them the entire trip. They're on their way. So, are you going to use your red wigglers for composting, or you want to breed them, or what are you going to do with them? Well, hi, local Indiana friend. Now, Mount Shasta, she or he, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if you're a female or male, but anyway, I know you're nearby. Yeah. Well, let's talk about worm tea. I know some people think that you can use that liquid that comes out of the bottom of your worm tower called leachate. I would not recommend using it. To me, that stuff is like the byproduct urine. I don't know, disgusting. Many years ago, hey, how are you? You see that name down there, guys? Joseph Calantonio. That's my husband. That byproduct many years ago, like 20 years ago, when we first started doing this, we thought that it was okay to use that and to put it on your plants and everything. And research has shown that it's not good. Now, if you want to make worm tea, that's different. You take your worm castings and you soak them, and you can either use a bubbler. I do use a bubbler, but I do clean my bubbler. Or you can stir it with a stick in a Home Depot bucket. And about the second or third day, you can pour it on your plants and it's fine. But that leachate stuff, if you have leachate coming out of the bottom of your worm factory or sitting at the bottom of a bin, you have too much water. So add some dry bedding to regulate that. Well, that was nice. Their compost is just a little, I noticed that the African nightcrawler compost is just a little thicker, and sometimes their cocoons are a little bigger, but they will eat a lot of your cardboard. They like cardboard, newspaper. They like all your carbon. They like anything in the brown family, but you can't only feed them that. It's got to be a balance. But they do a really good job on that. But remember, when you get them at first, you got to leave the light on or something so they can calm down. Hey, Tammy. You put the leachate back through the bin? Yeah, I've heard some people do that. And that's okay. Old chick with husband on other tablet. That's so funny. Well, remember, when you're out venturing, when COVID calms down here, come visit me. So, compost tea is one of the best things that you can put on your plants out there. Another thing compost tea does is when you spray it on your plants, it gives your plant like a coating to where the bugs don't want to attack it. There's a guy in Alaska that does that, and he, if you look him up, He grows like these giant vegetables, and nothing ever eats his plants, because the bugs just don't want it. That's good that you don't get leachate in your bins. That means you're doing a good job. And if you do get leachate in your bins, I mean, don't beat yourself up about it. Just add dry bedding so it can soak it up, and then you'll get the hang of it. A lot of things with raising worms is experience, and you'll learn that as you go by feeling with your hands and just just seeing how things are. And it all depends also on like your environment, whether you're in the south, the north, inside, outside, a cool basement or humidity. It's all different. So whatever it is that you have, you will learn how to do it. And yeah, I discovered worms on YouTube by a lady named Christy Ruffner. Her videos are still on YouTube somewhere. And she had these giant beds in her garage or barn. I don't even remember. We're talking giant. And you could see her shoveling manure on it. And she had the biggest worms. But I don't know. She was an older lady, so I'm not sure if she's even still living. But basically, she's the one that got me hooked. Hooked on worms. Anyone planning on selling them? Yeah, worm tea works without molasses or corn syrup. I've used worm tea without those things. I've also added fish emulsion. Fish emulsion, but I only do that outside the fish emulsion because, it can smell like fish. But fish emulsion works very well in your compost tea. Yeah. But, if you don't have molasses or corn syrup, you can use maple syrup, you can use brown sugar, you can use white sugar. Anything that's sugar, you can add it. Just make sure you stir it. If you don't stir that or have a bubbler, it is going to smell like you won't believe. Yeah, some people use crab meal. I've heard of that. I haven't, but I know people that do. Oh, I hope your husband feels better, Tammy. Yeah, COVID stinks. I had COVID 2 years ago really bad, and it almost killed me. If you look back at my videos, you could see that I talk about it, and I didn't see my worms for like 6 or 8 weeks. And Joe was taking care of them for me and the family, but I wanted to see them, so. It's not easy selling things, especially today. And I've given some away too. But even so, even though I've been raising them, for as long as I have, this is only my second year of actually selling them online. Um, yeah, there's some local bait shops around here, but I haven't ventured out that way yet. Well, hi, Stormy. I did go get a bait cup from one of the local shops just out of curiosity, and honestly, I was disappointed. It was supposed to have 12 worms in it, and when I went through the little cup, not in front of them, when I went outside, it only had 3. And I'm thinking that is so wrong. So, yeah, spring and summer is the busy time, but winter is also a busy time for me because worms ship better through the winter. They just do. Don't be afraid of the cold with them. Now, African night crawlers, I don't recommend it, but red wigglers are very resilient. They're resilient to cold, and so are European night crawlers. They really are. That's good that you give away your extra ones, Michael. Your wife didn't like you keeping fishing worms in the fridge. Well, you never have to buy worms again. You save all around. Yeah. Yeah, a lot of them around here have Canadian night crawlers, and you know, I know some of them they're half dead. I feel sorry for them. Yeah, you can start out keeping it local, Brooke, and once you get into shipping, ask me questions and I'll help you how to do it. It just takes a little bit of practice, and don't be afraid to do it. Just remember, have good customer service, because people really appreciate that. Good night, Is. So you shipping red wigglers now? Not yet. I'm waiting for them to multiply to the level that I feel comfortable selling them, because if I sell off all my stock, then I don't have anything to breed. So there's a way to do this to where you can keep your stock going, but yet have enough to sell. And that's right now what I'm working on. And it's a little tricky, but so far so good with me. How many of you like these lemon chips? I love them. Someone said goodnight, Is. Izzy is our youngest daughter. She's an adult. We have 4 adult children. And my kids are all raised around worms. They know how to work with them. They know how to harvest. They have helped me harvest. So I'm hoping that one day they'll get their own. But right now they're just too busy. Well, that's good that you get all the bad veggies from local stores. Now, my towers, I feed them my kitchen scraps, my compost. My breeders are different. Breeders, there's a reason you can't give them kitchen scraps, or you can give it to them. But when you're harvesting cocoons every 3 weeks, it's not convenient to have a smushy banana in there, or, a chunk of watermelon. It just makes it for a big mess. But, my nursery bins, my breeders are all in my nursery bins. And if I'm going to give them something wet, I usually start on one end and I'll harvest from the other end. But right now, we're doing the pumpkins. You've seen me do the pumpkins, and I just put that pumpkin right in the middle. I don't care. Let them have fun. It's Halloween, It's pumpkin season. They love it. I don't want to deprive them. I love them so much. They're so good. Yeah, red wigglers are great for breaking down. They love to feed in the first 4 to 6 inches. European night crawlers do the same thing, but I noticed they go a little bit deeper. And the African night crawlers, I've seen them everywhere also. They go deep and then they go up. 4 to 6 inches, I've seen the red wigglers, and I've also seen the swamp worms. So before you start selling them, just make sure that you do your research. Try not to get into debt when you do this, but it does take some money to start up. You need to buy supplies. You need to buy the bins you're going to raise them in, the bedding, and if you're going to feed them worm chow, you got to buy the supplies for that, and you got to figure out how you're going to grind it, and the shelves. I would say it takes maybe 2,000, 3,000 to get started. Plus, you got to get your stock, and then you got to decide what kind of worm you want to raise. And if you're going to get red wigglers, you got to make sure they're pure. Or if you like them mixed, that's okay too. A lot of people raise mixed worms, and there's nothing wrong with that. You just have to know how to handle them. Blue worms are not a bad worm. They're just a little picky. I don't have a favorite bin. I love them all. I love to raise like my pet worms in all towers. I have every kind of tower I think there is. I even have a container that's kind of like a tower in the garage that I haven't showed you all. But the breeders, I really like to raise them in when I separate the cocoons to grow up in a breeder bin to sell. I like to raise them in tubs that are 20 by 15 by 5 because they don't breed when you're raising cocoons like that. They don't need a lot of bedding that's very deep. They only need about 3 inches. No, I think I can ship worm chow internationally. If someone international, go on and just see if you could buy it and we'll work it out. I'm pretty sure I have it set up for international. Even though I haven't sold any international because most people in other countries just give them their food scraps or whatever they can, Which one, AJ? The one with the foot? Hi, Texas. I don't have an urban worm bag, and I haven't gotten one because, and I'm going to be honest with you, I'm not sure about the bag because it goes like this, like all the creases. I'm afraid they're going to get stuck in the creases, so I'm not sure about it yet. I might get a small one that goes in a tub only, not the one that you have to build with the PVC pipe and all that. But those creases, I'm not sold on it yet. So what'd you think of my Halloween video? As I did that, I'm thinking to myself, oh my gosh, what am I doing? But I told you, didn't I tell you guys that every year it just gets more ridiculous than ever? My coworkers saw it and they're like, V, you didn't really do that, did you? I'm like, yeah, I did. The thing is, when I put my hands in my worm bins, I love to feel them. They wiggle. I know that freaks some people out, but it just doesn't me. And I love to feel what they feel like between my fingers and stuff. And I've been dying to know what it feels like on feet. Will it tickle? Will it not? So I said, well, I'm going to do this. And I did one day, and my gosh, I laughed. I laughed just doing this myself. And I didn't tell anyone because I wanted it to be a surprise. So, well, thank you for loving my videos. Will they eat blue gourd pumpkin? I'm not sure. If it's a pumpkin, I don't see why not. Why don't you cut it up and put a piece in there and just see what happens? If it's fleshy inside, they most likely will. Like, I'm not sure if a worm will eat like a coconut. I think in time they will, but the coconut has that inside that's white, but it's hard. So I don't know. I've never put a coconut in one. That might be my next experiment. I might have to go get a coconut, drink the milk, and then just put it inside there and just see what happens. Has anyone ever put a coconut in one? It will take longer as the outside is hard. Yeah. Well, if you notice, avocados take forever. But I love when I put an avocado and then I lift it up and I see all the worms in there. It's like a giant mass of worms. Oh, I get so excited. So if you want to try that experiment, cut an avocado in half and just put the fleshy part on the surface or just bury it a little bit and then wait a few days and they start going in. And you'll be surprised at how many you have. So that's also an easy way to catch worms. If you want to catch them and bait them, that's an easy way to do it. Just put something on the surface, like a banana maybe. And when you lift it up, you're going to have a mass of worms there. And then you can grab them before they go back down. Oh, I see what you're doing, Stormy. That's a great idea. So... freezing your food scraps is better than room temperature. Now, what I recommend is when you have your food scraps frozen, when you take them out in your African nightcrawler bins, do not put them in frozen because African night crawlers are sensitive to cold and they're not going to like it. I would let that defrost first and then feed it to them. But red wigglers and euros, I have taken it right from the freezer and just put it right in the bin. And the reason you freeze it is because it not only helps it to break down, it'll kill any bugs or anything that could be on it, and it'll also prevent fruit flies from starting, because everyone has had fruit flies at some point. But once they start, it's hard to get control of them. You have to start using mosquito dunk water, and they just go crazy sometimes. So the flesh on the coconut will break down, but not the brown part. Well, that's interesting. We're going to have to try that one. We're going to have to try that one. Now, the reason I started freezing my scraps years ago is because for some reason we had one summer that there were so many fruit flies, and I didn't know why. And I started burying my food, and then they disappeared. So don't think it'll kill the seeds, it'll sprout. Yeah, sometimes, because my worm chow is homemade, and you'll have things sprout sometimes in it because I use different types of seeds and everything. I just pick out, I call them little trees. I just pick them out and I just throw them back on the surface, and it's like more food for the worms because they start getting rid of that too. The tiny white things are potworms. Yeah, when you put things that are very wet in your worm bin, the little white worms, those are not baby worms like composting worms. Those are potworms. And they come with humidity, and they don't hurt anything in your worm bin. They're just part of the composting world. But if you don't like them and you don't want to see them, let your bin dry out a little bit and then they'll disappear. Springtails too. Springtails are just part of the natural composting. And you've seen them in my bins. They're just there. But if I want them to disappear, I just let the bin dry out a little bit and they go. But you have to be careful when you dry out a bin a little bit, because you don't want to dry it out too much, because then it'll hurt the worms. So I say if they're there, they're there. If they start getting in huge amounts, then I do something like that. Will springtails kill the worms? No. Nah. They just compete for the food. But I've had black soldier flies in my outside bin, and I've had black soldier flies in my bin when I keep one in the garage. I've never had one inside. And when I have had them in the garage, I pick them out and I get rid of them, because if you have an abundance of black soldier flies, they will heat up your bin. And they also compete for the food. Black soldier flies are tremendous composters. But if you have some chickens, you can pick them out and give them to the chickens. I don't know anything about wood lice. I'm assuming anything with the word lice is not good. Was that outside or inside? Because I've never had that. If my bin outside has had everything in it. I know I hate black soldier flies too. They gross me out. Oh my gosh, the way they crawl reminds me of a maggot. Oh. But if you leave them in there, because you'll see them in clusters, they'll heat up your bin really fast, and then they'll compete for the food, and the worms will try to run, and it's not good. But there are some people out there that raise black soldier flies alone for I don't know what purpose. I'm assuming to feed chickens and things, but they raise them. Yep, they sure do. I would never. I don't like mealworms either. Or tomato hornworms. No way. These are the things that I just can't. They're just too gross for me. Oh, pill bugs. Those are we call them here roly polies. They don't hurt anything. But again, they can grow in numbers and you don't want that. You're with me too, AJ, huh? Yeah, I don't know. Ooh. So you guys, do you know AJ from Green Topics? I've known AJ a few years. He does a lot of worms and other types of videos um, for the green lifestyle, which I love. So go and find and subscribe to him. And I'm waiting for Rick from Gardening with Barchucken to show up. I know that he said he had a bowling thing tonight. He's like a really good bowler. So I don't know if he'll come, but he's another one that I've known for a few years, and we talk a lot about worms and things. Yeah, the roly polies. I think they're cute. I used to play with them when I was a kid, um, but I don't have them inside my worm bins. But I'm sure in my worm bin outside in the garden, they live in there. I mean, everything has lived in there because it's just nature. One time I found a black widow in there. So yeah. Aw, a baby nest. How cute. So I've never put meat in the worm bin inside the house, but I have put stuff like that in my outdoor worm bin because we live here in the forest. There are animals that sometimes die out here. And we've put them in the worm bin outside, and the worms take care of it, like dead rabbits and dead possums and just other things. And I do put it outside in my worm bin, and they take care of it. Dead birds. Yeah, I agree with you, AJ. I love the composting and gardening and community. We're a great gang of people. We really are. And I answer honestly when you ask me something, because I personally have struggled trying to get answers and have been very frustrated. So I just don't want you all to do the same, to go through the same thing. So I'll tell you what works for me, and I'll tell you what doesn't. And I'll tell you some of the disasters I've created. I just have. I've killed worms. I've um I've done so many things through the years. Roly polies. Yeah, they're the little pill bugs. They when you touch them, they roll up into a little ball. They're harmless. But when you have juicy food going in a worm bin, everyone else wants a bite of it. So outside they all compete, and it's okay. It's balance, it's nature. It all works out. Sometimes I water my outside bin, sometimes I don't. I just let nature take over. I like having good suggestions, yeah. And when I film my videos, I like to give a lot of tips and tricks along the way. And I not only do that in the beginning of the video, I talk about things like that through the whole video as I do things, because I want you guys to learn. And if you mess something up or don't do it perfect, don't worry. There's nothing perfect about this. It's about having fun and enjoying yourself and enjoying your worms, because I know you all love your worms as much as I do. Look at my mug. How cool is that? I'm just drinking water. Yeah, I do too. I let nature do its thing in my garden. My garden is a hot mess right now, but you know what? It is what it is. I have to take care of my worms and prioritize them. And I don't spray chemicals in the garden. So the garden, it'll be there again next year. I do have to do a little cleaning up in there, but I just haven't had time. I haven't had time, and my garden still does great. We had that giant pumpkin. Izzy got the pumpkin out of the garden. She ended up carving it. So I'll take a picture of it and I'll put it in the community so you guys could see it. And I saved the seeds from it. So maybe in the spring I'll sell some of the seeds in a little package so you guys could have one. There, the pumpkin is like perfectly round. It's so pretty. Good night, Michael. Next time we do a live, I'll try to do it earlier and not on a night that I have to work. But you know, it's Halloween night, so I wanted to be on here with Halloween with you guys. And by the way, the number I picked for the worm giveaway is 31 because obviously October 31st is Halloween. So whoever had 31, you have 2 days to contact me. If you don't contact me, I'm just going to pick another number and we'll go to the next person. So whoever's 31, congratulations. I don't know who it is right now. I have to go look back at my notes. Yeah, we get a lot of birds that visit here in the winter. I have a bird feeder outside on my deck. It's just nothing fancy. It's just 4 pieces of like wood and it's like a little box. And honestly, it's my favorite bird feeder. And we have also these giant crows that come. They're like this. They're huge, and they come and they feed and they bring their family. How did we get the numbers? Like the number I picked? I just knew the date. I don't know what number you did. I have to look back at my notes. Later, I'm going to look back. Oh, you're welcome. It's my pleasure. It's my pleasure. Thank you. Thank you for liking my videos. I appreciate it. I get so many nice comments from everyone on here. No, I don't insulate my outdoor bin since it has holes on the bottom and it just sits on the ground. The worms know that they're going to come and go and they do their own thing. Tomorrow, I'll go outside and I'll film it and I'll show you how it works and what it is. If you have a worm bin that is not on the ground and the worms are not going to be able to escape or move, it's going to be in a container, I would definitely wrap it in something. But mine, I don't know. They've just been trained for like 13 years. They just come and go. But if someone has worms in a worm bin outside and it's like in a box or something where they can't escape or go anywhere, I would definitely insulate it with something. I know some people put straw around it. It all depends on how cold it is where you are and you know what your surroundings are. I personally, I wouldn't have a worm bin outside that the worms couldn't like escape because I'd be afraid that they would die. I'd keep them in the garage though. My garage here hit 31 one year, 31 degrees Fahrenheit, and I had red wigglers in there and they didn't die. Now they slowed down and they were dormant a little bit. They went dormant, but they didn't die. So yeah. Have you noticed how fat the red wigglers are getting? Eastern Ontario. Yeah, so you do like a lasagna composting for them. And then you wrap the whole thing up. That's interesting. Do they do okay when you come back and look at them in the spring, or do you look at them through the winter, Tammy? How does that work for you? I'm sure they get moisture from the food, like decomposing and stuff. How does that work when the winter? Yeah, the cocoons that I don't think that they get hurt. They mine in the spring, you notice inside the worm barrel, they just start hatching. You notice a lot of little baby worms, and I know it's because they're hatching. It has an open bottom. Okay, that's good. So you do basically the same thing I do. You give them the opportunity to go if they have to. And you know what? When you start putting food in there again, they come back. They come back and they start reproducing again, and it's like a really nice cycle. They come back. I've seen a mouse in my outdoor one because the back of the barrel has like a hole that's like that. And I've opened it and I've seen something run out. And I know it's a little mouse, but a little field mouse in there, I don't think is going to really do anything. Yours is open bottom too. Yeah, that's good. I just wonder how people do it when it's not an open bottom. Like, how do they insulate that? And do they survive? And I just wonder because I'd like to know how that's done. Not that I'm going to do it, just out of curiosity. So my worm chow is making the red wigglers nice and chunky. Better than in my house. Oh, they're so cute when they're born, aren't they? When they're born, they're they're so teeny, but they have a little hint of pink. That's how you know that they are not another worm, that you know it's them. They got a little hint of pink. They are the cutest things. Yeah, well, my red wigglers aren't the biggest I've ever seen. My first red wigglers I bought from a man down in Conroe, Texas. And I'm assuming that he raised them outside in manure, but I'm not 100% sure. And he's passed away a long time ago. But when I got his worms, they were the biggest red wigglers I have ever seen. I mean, they were huge. And I've never seen them that big again. Mine are pretty big, but not like his. Good night. Oh, it's my pleasure. I'm glad you've learned. Next time we do a live, we'll do it like on a Saturday or a Friday night, and we'll do it a little earlier so that people maybe don't have to work the next day. I'm off tomorrow, but I'm not off from the worms. Yeah, we're mid-autumn here too, and by now usually it's colder outside here, but it hasn't been. What do you mean, do I have a worm bin at work? Like outside? Outside, I have the one in the garden. Oh, at my job, you mean? No. No, I can't have one at my job. I wish I could. That'd be fun. Yeah, it takes about 21 days, sometimes a little longer to hatch. It depends on your temperature. If you add one of those heating pads underneath, they hatch a little faster, but you have to make sure that you really keep a close eye on it because it can dry out really fast, and you don't need to do that. That's the one thing that will definitely kill your worms is no moisture. Absolutely, they'll die. Your worms are in your garden shed. Well, that's cool. No, I don't feed my worms Halloween candy. Even though they like sugar, that's one thing I haven't put in there. As far as sugar, I try to give them things that are natural, like pumpkin and watermelon and stuff like that. I've never put like artificial candy in there. Has anyone done that? If you have, what happened? You can. You can make a compost pile outside. You can feed worms outside. That's what my barrel basically does. I just put food scraps outside and grass clippings from the mowing because we don't use any chemicals on our grass either. And they come and go out there. But the worms I have out in my barrel, they're not very big. So people don't like them for fishing or anything. Have you guys seen that crazy worm that exists? I've seen them in my garden, and they are freaky to find, I'll tell you that. Yeah. Yeah, you have to water your heat mats. You have to water it because they will dry out. So the crazy worm, that's what they call it. And it's kind of girthy, kind of a strong looking worm. And what freaks me out about them is that when I've touched one, they slither away like snakes. And oh no, it's weird to see a worm do that, but it does. It kind of goes like this. And I'm like, oh no, 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 no. So yeah, the jumping worm. Jumping worm, crazy worm. They're an invasive species. Yeah, you can use a chicken feed from Tractor Supply, but be careful with that because it's very high in protein. And I feed chicken feed, but I don't feed it all the time. Sometimes I'll sprinkle a little bit. It's high in protein, and you don't want it to give you protein poisoning. I've seen that, and it's horrible. It's really late down there, down under. Oh, hi. Canadian night crawlers scare you, AJ? They're really big, but at least they don't slither away. Oh, like those jumping worms. And they're an invasive species, and people breed them. Yeah, they're called Alabama jumpers. I don't like them at all. Oof. Molasses or alfalfa pellets? Alfalfa pellets will heat up your worm bin if you're not careful. Like my worm chow, for example, is only for surface feeding. Do not bury it in your bin because it will heat up your bin. It's only for surface feeding. You sprinkle it on, you mist it with water, and then when it's gone, then you feed again. What are you asking about molasses animal rescue? Molasses, I use it to make my molasses water. Suddenly starts segmenting and yes, that's what protein poisoning does. They call it a string of pearls because they'll start looking like a string of pearls. And once they have that, there's no coming back from it. It's bad. It's lunchtime there. Oh wow. Well, I hope you had a good doctor's visit. Yeah, protein poisoning is horrible. And if it happens to you, I mean, don't beat yourself up. Just figure out like what went wrong and just try to avoid that. And you might have to start over. Honestly, if I had a bin with protein poisoning, I would sift it out and I'd leave the cocoons in there and I'd have to get rid of the ones that have it because they're not going to make it. Yeah, I don't know how to raise Canadian night crawlers. I know that they need cold refrigeration. I don't know how to raise those. I'm assuming they put them in the same stuff that we put them, but then put them in the fridge. So I guess people who raise Canadian night crawlers have these giant fridges. Yes, molasses water is good. It is good to use, but if you don't put molasses water in a bubbler, it's not going to last very long. It'll only last like 2 or 3 days, and then it'll start smelling funny. But if you put your molasses water with a bubbler, it'll last like a week. I do that a lot. But then sometimes I just use the molasses water in my spray bottles because for me it doesn't last long. It's just in a day it's gone. Oh, you work in a bait and tackle store? That must be so much fun. Well, I wish you luck starting your bin. Are you going to do Canadian night crawlers, Steve? I've never seen worms get protein poisoning from cornmeal. Usually it happens when I see chicken feed, or there's another powder that's a cricket feed. Have you seen that powder that people feed their crickets with? I have it and I use it sparingly. It's also very expensive, but the worms like it, but very little. I've seen them get protein poisoning with an excessive amount of both those things, but never cornmeal. Yeah, sometimes molasses meal is sometimes you could get it cheap. Yeah, they love it when you add it to the worm chow. Just moderation. If you're gonna make your worm chow and add it, don't add a huge amount. Just a little bit. A little bit goes a long way. Yeah, they sell dry molasses. And they also had the one in the bottle that's wet. Yeah, use it. You can make good. You're making your bubble tea with the molasses. I put some dry in my water with the bubbler. Some dry molasses. If I don't have the one in the glass jar, the unsulfurated one, I have put the dry molasses in the water, and it disintegrates and dissolves. I don't know about you all, but I like the smell of it. I think it smells really cool. It smells like a cookie. You have a rain barrel in your basement. Wow, that's so cool. Okay. Some pump, then the molasses goes in. Wow. Oh my gosh, that's great. 100 containers each week. Wow. Oh my gosh, that's amazing. Have you guys gone to Starbucks? You could go to Starbucks and get coffee grinds left over. They'll give them to you. Usually they put them in a bag and they put them by the door, and you can get them. You've seen it in one of my videos. It's like a silver bag. But I don't think they do that all year. So they might have stopped doing it already. Oh, thank you, AJ. Good night. I appreciate that. Good night, AJ. AJ's a great guy, guys. Go check out his channel. Oh, wow. You live in the sugarcane region. Molasses from the sugar mill? That must be so cool. It's probably really pure, too. Well, my family's Cuban. My family's from Cuba. I am the only one that wasn't born in Cuba, and my dad would tell me about the sugarcane fields in Cuba. You drink a lot of coffee, Tammy? What is in that magic worm food? You may have fed it too much. Yeah, sometimes we think that if we feed them a lot, it's going to be better for them, but it's really not. No, I don't know. Just keep trying. You'll find someone who will give it to you, who'll give you the scraps. Some people just don't want to do it because I don't know. I don't know why. Maybe they don't have enough to give, or maybe they just think they're going to get in trouble or something. You love Cuba? Oh, I love Cuban food. I love Cuban music. My whole family's loud and Cuban. I think I'm the most soft spoken Cuban there is. But my husband's Italian. I married a Cuban the first time. That didn't work out. Joe was I worked as a dental assistant and Joe was my patient. I would take x-rays of his teeth. And he's an amazing husband. I know you all have seen everything he does for me and continues to do. Well, hi Jennifer. Happy Halloween. I have to show you the new cart he got me to sit on with wheels. It's like a cart that you sit on and it rolls really easy so that I can take care of the worm bins that are on the bottom so it doesn't hurt my back. Oh, thank you. I just work hard. You know, life isn't perfect. It never will be. There's no perfection, but you just got to do your best and be honest and try to live as nice as you can, as good as you can to people because when you lay your head down at night, you want to have a clean conscience, you know? Oh, that's so great, Tammy. We just celebrated our 25th wedding anniversary. We've been together about 28 years. No, worms don't get tired. You can feed them pumpkin all year if you want. They're not like that. They won't like ignore a food like that. They love it. If you give them watermelon all the time, they love it too. I've never had a worm like when I give them like the same thing all the time, ignore it. And it's the same thing like worm chow. Like my breeders eat that all the time and they've never ignored it. I don't think I'm going to sell cocoons because I need them to continue to build up my stock and reproduce. Now, if I ever get to the level where I'll sell cocoons off, I'll let you guys know. You want some euros? Well, go on my website. They're nice and big. I've tried apple slices. Yep, they like it. But anytime I feed apple, I try to bury it because for some reason fruit flies come. Same thing with bananas. But when I do an experiment and I put the banana on the surface so I could catch the worms underneath, then, sometimes a fruit fly will come, sometimes they won't. Yeah, they're eating machines. They will eat practically anything you give them. No, I don't rotate food. My worm chow, I make it with all types of ingredients and different things. I even put beet powder in my worm chow and just to give it a different type of vitamin. I mix beet powder in there, hibiscus powder I put in there. I guarantee you the commercial worm chow you buy out there is not going to have beet powder or hibiscus powder mixed in because they're going to make it the cheapest way possible. But I like mine to be healthy. I've never shipped worms to Canada. I know it's possible, but I haven't done it. You know, you can feed them leftover pizza, but that's something that you only have to put on the surface and wet it down because it's bread. Um, Bread will warm up your bin, so will crackers and rice. I made the mistake one time. Oh my gosh, this was horrible. This was like 17 years ago. I decided to mix rice into my bin. It was in my worm factory. And I put the rice in on the top and I mixed it up. And oh my gosh, I went to check on my worms a few hours later because, I check on them often because I love them. And I touched the outside of the worm factory and it was so hot, the plastic. I'm like, oh my gosh, what is wrong? I had to put sticks in between each layer to get air in there. And I started spraying it with cold water and mixing it and mixing it. It took hours. I finally got the temperature to calm down. And I know that it was because of the rice. Yeah, they love oats. And if you want to try feeding a piece of pizza or bread, just put it on the surface, spray it down with water, and keep an eye on it. And if it heats up, you can always remove it. What is it, Nina? But I would never bury it. What do you give them, Tammy? What kind of treat do you give them? Yeah, the starch and the rice. Now, if you want to give them rice, put it on the surface. Spray it down just a little. And you watch a day or two later, if you put your hand over the rice, you'll feel it. And, if you do something like that, do it on one side of the bin because that way the worms can go on the other side if they don't want to deal with it. Yeah. Yeah, you can give them a treat from there. Just be careful. No, I don't have trouble with mites with I feed bread, but I don't feed bread often. I only use bread when I'm going to do some experiment. I don't do that on a regular basis. Mostly the bread that we have here, it's dry and I'll put it in the bird feeder outside. Like right now Nina's attacking a leaf. We have so many leaves and she goes outside and she carries them in and then shreds them up. And I have to vacuum constantly. Dried fruits have like that sugary stuff on them, so I would put it on the surface. And nuts, they take forever to break down. I do stay away for the most part from citrus, from lemon and grapefruit and oranges, but I have put sometimes a piece or two of lemon in my tower, like my food scraps, because I've used it to cook and it's been okay. I just haven't put a ton. I knew a lady that one time made lemonade. And you know how many lemons it takes to make lemonade, at least 10 or something. And she put all the lemonade grinds in the worm bin. And then those worms went running. They ran. Yeah, worms can eat hot peppers. I haven't seen a problem with that. When I put my worm, my food scraps, in the outside bin, I put everything out there. Out there, I call that worm barrel out there. The everything goes worm barrel. I put lemon peels in there, onions, garlic. Worms don't like usually onions. When I put an onion in my indoor worm bin, they for the most part stay away from it. It can smell a little bit, but out there, everything goes out there. Yeah, everything in moderation. But if I think they're not going to like it, even inside, I don't do it because I just think about their likes and dislikes and like I don't want to like hurt their feelings and give them something they don't like. Hi, Olive. Come here. Aw, look who came to visit. Say hi, Olive. This is Olive. Olive is a rescue we got when she was a little puppy. Her and her brothers were abandoned and we got them for during the winter for outside. In my outside worm bin, I just keep adding my food scraps just like normal. It takes longer to break down, but eventually it does. I don't keep track of how much I use because I have so much going on. But you've used that much since February? Oh my gosh. Wow. Hi, Meng Meng. How are you? That's interesting that you know how much you have fed. I mean, imagine those 1,500 would have ended up in the landfill, you know? Wow. I personally like using peat moss for bedding, but right now I can't really, I don't have a lot of it. And the peat moss I do have, I use for shipping worms. So I've been using a lot of coconut coir and my shredded paper and shredded cardboard and stuff like that. I've been making do with what I have. In the spring, when the peat moss comes back, I'm going to get a few of those giant bags and keep it on hand. You know, sometimes I like the coconut coir, the way it looks in a worm bin and the way it feels. Oh, he has a spreadsheet. Wow. That's impressive. You notice that at least this is what happens to mine. When I use coconut coir, um, Olive, I noticed that as the worms dig through it and they create these tunnels, the coconut coir like it kind of like flattens out. And I noticed that the worm bin becomes like a flat surface. It doesn't look bumpy at all, which I don't know why, but I love that. I have used straight peat moss, but then when you do that, you got to add some dolomite lime. I add some azomite minerals. If you don't add lime to peat moss, it's too acidic. The worms won't like it. They won't do as well. So I mix it. Sometimes I've mixed coconut coir with peat moss. Like I've done a 50-50. Depends on what I have. I've also done a lot of leaves. I'm about to film a video on feeding them leaves because I have a lot of leaves and they really, really love it. So the blackest castings I've ever gotten was when I have fed leaves. I mean, the castings are amazing. Now, one time I fed only paper, like shredded newspaper. I just wanted to see. And the castings, they were dark, but you can still see the little white papers in the casting. So, yeah. I get my lime either at Home Depot, Lowe's, or you can get it on Amazon. Just put Dolomite lime. Make sure it's, it's nothing crazy added. I look at ingredients. You have 50,000 worms so far. Wow. 3 pounds of castings. Sometimes I've had so much castings, I've had to like dump it in my garden. Because think about it, the worms are continuing to eat and eat and eat and pooping and pooping and pooping. It's like it's nonstop. So if you don't sell it, or can't sell it, or don't want to deal with it, you're gonna have so much, I just sprinkle it in the worm bin, just like I do use the dolomite lime, the azomite. I just sprinkle it in there. And it gives them a mineral, little extra boost. That's a good mix, Brooke. Yeah, they'll like it. Now, I've always said that worms, when they like their environment, they're going to stay there. But I have seen worms that like the environment, and the minute you shut that light off or don't put a light, there they go. You know, they have minds of their own. They have minds of their own. You never know what they're going to do. I harvest the castings. I harvest a worm bin about every 3 weeks to get the cocoons out. And if I have the castings, I just put them aside. I don't know how much 50,000 worms weigh because I don't know the size of the worms, you know. The fatter the worms, obviously they're going to weigh more, but you're going to have less quantity. Or you can have a million teeny worms and who knows what they'll weigh. Also, it depends on the species of the worm, you know, they're all different. African night crawlers are going to weigh a lot more than a red wiggler. Yeah, I have friends that I give worm castings to and coworkers, and they like it because they use it on their house plants or their gardens. The good thing about worm castings is you don't have to be afraid to use it. It's not going to burn your plants. You're not going to over fertilize. Just use it. No fear. It'll be all right. And when you make your tea and you spray your outdoor plants with it, it gives it that coating. So there's less chances that bugs are going to invade your crop. You have blue worms and red worms, Tammy? It took my husband not too long to build the sifter. I think we did it in like a couple of days because we took breaks in between. And there's no specific plan for Harvey because we just did it as we went and thought, oh, this will work better, that'll work better. So I have a new sifter that I got in that I'm going to show you guys. And the reason I got it is because I need something flat, but I need also sometimes something that'll be quiet because sometimes I work early in the morning and my family's still sleeping. And when I turn on Harvey, it's loud and I don't want to wake them up. So I'll be showing you that sifter. And the creator of the sifter let me have a coupon for you all. So I'll be giving you that also. I'm sure the patches in the garden look better too. I'm sure if you add something on that bald spot, it'll also grow. Castings just do an amazing job. I also added to my indoor plants. I have like a lot of just regular plants. I have aloe, I have a bonsai, and I have a carnivorous plants, which I love carnivorous plants. Have you looked into them? They're amazing. But castings just, I don't know, it gives them like a boost of energy. It gives them like a boost of vitamin. I love it. I put it in all my plants. You got a sundew? Is that a plant? Because I recently got a monkey pitcher. A monkey pitcher is a carnivorous plant. So a sundew is a carnivorous plant. Oh, I'll have to look into what that one is. So I got the monkey pitcher and it's a plant and it has these little pitchers that hang down from like a stem and it's like that and it has a little flap on it. And you can put live insects in there every once in a while and the plant will eat it. And I just love it. Sundew. I'll have to look that up and see what that is. Well, I put my castings on the surface, but I also have mixed it in. Like if I'm going to replant the plant, I'll take my castings and mix it into the soil that I'm using or whatever medium I'm using, and then I'll plant my plant in it. But as a supplement for my house plants, I just sprinkle it on the surface. And then when I wet my plant, all those nutrients just go down. So when you're going to grow a garden, you can put castings in the planting hole. So what I do is I dig a hole, I throw some castings in there, and then I plant my tomato plant or whatever it is I'm planting. I used to use years ago one of those root stimulators, but once I started worm composting, I left that. I left all that alone. I just started using my castings. It was safer, more natural. I have to look up what that sundew is. Let me see. I'm going to put it on my phone here before I forget. Because then later when I stop this, I'll forget. Sundew plant. Oh, I see it here. Oh, those are pretty. How do you feed that? I'll have to look it up. No, it won't harm the plant at all. You can put castings on the surface of the plant, near the plant, or in the hole. It's not going to hurt it. There's other commercial sprays that, you can't spray near the plant to kill weeds because it'll hurt the plant. Oh, you can? I didn't know that because I have seaweed solution. Well, I will tell you something. I fed my monkey pitcher. I took one of the wisps from my worm farm, and I put it in the bucket, and it ate the baby worm. I know, I know, but my plant has to eat too. Yeah, the worm tea, molasses tea that I made in the worm bucket that I had, I used castings. And what I did was I took my own castings and I put it in a mesh and I tied it up and I put it in there and I had it bubbling for days. And then I put the liquid in the spigot. I took a bottle and it has a spigot, and that video is coming up. And I used it to spray my worm bins. But that video is coming up. I just finished it. And the worm bucket, the company sent it to me, and I love it. So the first thing I did was make a compost tea in it, worm tea. And then the next thing I'm going to do is you can also raise worms in it. So I'm going to do that. Max C for the plant food. Okay. And don't worry, you're not going to drown your babies or eggs. I mean, if you're going to use castings, it is what it is. You can also sift them out and just do it with a very fine mesh. That way, all you get is castings, and you probably won't get any cocoons. Oh, you're welcome. I'm about to end this too. It's 10:20 here. I mean, I'll talk till 2 or 3 in the morning, but then no one will probably be here anymore. I talk a lot. I can't help it. I'm glad you came, Tammy. It was fun. Well, guys, number 31, you have 2 days to contact me. Today is Monday. You have till Wednesday. If I don't hear from you by Wednesday, someone else is getting the red wigglers. So contact me, and congratulations. And if you guys have any more questions, just put them here or message me. What state am I in? I'm in Indiana. And you can also ask me questions on the community. I'll answer them there. Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, we're going to do this again sometime. I haven't done a live in a few months, but I like doing it because it gives me the chance to answer the questions that you all have. Even though I read every comment that comes on every video that I have. Sometimes I answer them, sometimes I just press a thumbs up, but I do read everything. And I have had some people send me emails privately and asking for advice, and I still do that. So you can reach out to me. And I also have snail mail. I've had people send me letters or cards, thank you cards. So it's the Garden and Worm Lady, and it's P.O. Box 101, Crandall, Indiana, 47114 is the zip. And I go there about once a week to pick up my mail. But if you send me a card or something, just let me know and I'll go sooner. Good night, Evelyn. Thank you for coming. You're so welcome. It's my pleasure, Steve. Oh my gosh, it's 2:25 by you here in the UK. Oh, I'm sorry the Queen died, by the way. I love the Queen. I followed her from when I was a little girl. I followed that whole family. Well, I hope you don't have to work tomorrow. Well, good night, guys. Stay tuned. If you're new here, like and subscribe. Put that thumbs up, ring that little bell because YouTube checks these things. And if you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and do so because I notice a lot of people watch me, but they're not subscribed. So we got to press that subscribe button. If you want to check out my other channel, it's the Composting Worm Lady. And over there, I'll be doing more videos on home composting and raising them in towers and just like the pets for people who don't want to sell them and breed them for selling. So I'm doing that a lot because I've gotten a lot of comments like, not everyone wants to sell worms and how do we do it? So that's why. Oh, you got the day off. Well, good. Me too. So I'll see you in tomorrow's video then. So good night, guys. It's been a pleasure. We will do this again. We got about an hour and a half in, and I'll see you all next time. Take care.